Parikshika Gamge. She is the chairman of National Research Council. She is going to speak to us on translational research and innovations from bench to bedside in Sri Lanka medicine. Thank you.
Good afternoon, dear sir, madams, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known. I'm truly honored and excited to be invited to speak under the theme Integrating Innovation Technologies and Research at this momentum occasion. And also a bit terrified because all my teachers are also in the audience. Looking back over the past 100 years, it is fascinating to see how health in Sri Lanka has evolved. We have marked a significant progress as well as faced persistent challenges. Considering research and innovation, while there have been many positive changes, there are also aspects that we have not even looked at. Keeping in mind that first of all, we should do no harm. So at the background, there is a picture of ancient Puskolaputta, used to keep account of traditional medicine. So this is not new to us. These historical origins of Sinhala medicine can be traced back to ancient civilizations, back to King Kapalakave, with the practice of receiving substantial support from Sri Lankan monarchs who possessed extensive knowledge in the realm of medicine themselves. So talking from bench to bedside to patient care, I would like to talk to you on translation, innovation, and even implementation. So what is translation? So bench to bedside occurs through translation. Bench to bedside is a process of translating science, research conducted in laboratory, which is the bench, into clinical applications and patient care, which is the bedside. So it is basic sciences, translation to humans, translation to patients, and to translation to practice, and finally to communities. And now note, less than 25% of promising biomedical discoveries progress into clinical trials. And of that too, less than 10%, a small fraction, makes it to clinical practice within 20 years. Well, that's the norm. It's Sir Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin in 1928, but when it was marketed, it was 1940, which is not a problem. Well, when we consider research, translation of research is a continuum. From basic biomedical research, discovery, design, validation, pre-clinical trials, clinical trials, late clinical trials, health technology assessment, healthcare research, and finally delivery. So we see two translational gaps here. The first translational gap and the second translational gap. However, the problem is now we focus too much on the first translational gap and we forget to think about our second translational gap. So due to these processes, due to this lack of interest, we lost research in this process. 85% of research is lost in this translation according to Chalmers 2009. So why does it happen? Study designs and methodology, methodological flaws, research prioritization and funding. And even if we do get funding, M&A during funding. So we lack monitoring and evaluation of projects which got funded. Regulatory and ethical bottlenecks, publication and reporting bias, which is also referred to as winner's curse, an economical term. Knowledge dissemination and uptake. We researchers, we scientists, we cannot market our own research. So therefore, we fail to sort of get these into policy decisions. Right. Talking about methodologies. What would you say if a clinician, if a doctor prescribes wrong drugs to a patient? Okay, or the right drug, but in wrong, inaccurate doses. Scandalous, right? Unacceptable, right? So this is what Altman 1994 highlights. Unacceptable, unprofessional, scandalous. But what happens, let me draw a quote from this very same paper. What should we think about a doctor who uses the wrong technique to do research? What would we think about such a doctor? The temptation to behave dishonestly is surely far greater now, when all too often main reason for piece of research seem to be to lengthen a researcher's CV. There may be greater danger to the public welfare from statistical dishonesty, from almost any form of dishonesty. Why should we think it acceptable for researchers to ask the wrong question, use the wrong techniques, and even wrongly misinterpret? The danger to welfare loss due to statistical dishonesty is far too great. Somewhere is something that SLMC should pay attention to. Okay, let's go to the current landscape of research funding in Sri Lanka. We have limited government allocations for research and development, less than 1% GDP. And then we also have university-based research grants, largely self-funded or dependent on large or small case competitive grants, local or foreign, donor-funded projects, research often embedded with external funded health programs, private sector philanthropy, minimal engagement in research funding. For instance, Wellcome Trust, a global charitable foundation established in 1936. Do we have such institutions or contributions to research? So, what are the health research funding agencies we have in Sri Lanka? National Research Council, National Science Foundation, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, SLMA, and other professional bodies. Now, this slide is really interesting. Once I joined NRC, I got to know there are so many institutions, a lot of scientists working together to improve science and even research. Arthur C. Clarke, NRC, NSF, Sri Lanka Inventors Commission, National Innovative Agency, Sri Lanka Institute of Nanotechnology, SLIMTech as we call it, Sri Lanka Institute of Biotechnology, SLIMTech, Industrial Technology Institute, ITI, National Science and Technology Commission, NASTEC, Sri Lanka's Standards Institution, National Engineering Research and Development Center, National Institute of Fundamental Studies. Now, all these institutions, from inception, innovation, commercialization, and even scaling up of research, do we know about these institutions? This is high time we do so. Okay, loss in translation. A second reason is we do not know our priorities. So if we do research for the wrong purpose, nobody's going to use it. Okay, so a few weeks back, Ministry of Health launched these health research priority areas for 2025 for the next 3 years or so. Now these comes under allopathic health research, Ayurveda health research, and under various topics and subtopics. Okay, so let's move on to innovation. Dr. Sanjeeva Veeravarna, in one of his TED Talks, talks about two types of people. People who look at a problem and complain, and another set of people who look at a problem and wonder, how can we overcome this? So, there is a dearth of innovations in Sri Lanka. We have to accept this. Innovations need time, passion, dedication, thinking, support, and also resources. Plus, innovations need systematic and multidisciplinary efforts of all who contributes. And there are 6 forces definitely to be considered under innovations: industry trends, public policy, technology. We have talked so much about technology today, funding, accountability, and finally, the patients. Unless these 6 forces are acknowledged and managed intelligently, any of them can create obstacles for innovation. So we were talking so much about health technology in the morning. What is health technology? When we talk about technology, what comes into our heads would be MRI, scanners, all these equipment, computers. But health technology is something that we use to promote health in a person. It could be a drug, investigation, building, screening, and even maybe policies. So what is HTA? HTA takes us through reasoning. Would this technology be suitable in my country? Can it work in my country? Quality and safety of the technology for my people and the need in the community. And it also looks at safety, efficacy, effectiveness, appropriateness, and implementation. Sadly, we do not have health technology in Sri Lanka. HTA considers the broad implications of a technology, including its impact on society, ethics, and how it integrates. So it can be, we looked at the translational process. If we divide that into upstream, midstream, and downstream, HTA can be applied to all these places, including identifying a promising area for tech development, evaluate feasibility, effectiveness, and context fix, guide adoption, decision, and monitor impact. Technology assessment should be embedded, iterative process in the research ecosystem, starting early, continuing through development, and informing policy and practice. Into the last slide, implementation from bench to bedside to patients. Now, in low resource setting like ours, implementation research is very scarce. Why? And then this leads to, we fail to identify whether these technologies or drugs that we talk about, whether this would be acceptable in the community, whether these will be adopted by people or patients, appropriateness, feasibility, cost, and penetration, and of course, sustainability. So bench to implementation, why does it matter? Our implementation research, do we even think about it? It improves population health outcomes, enhances return on investments in research, informs policy, planning, and programs. But consequences of poor implementation research, what would it lead to? We waste a lot of resources. Persisting health inequities, delayed or missed innovation. So all these reasons lead to research waste. The scandal of poor medical research. Too much medical research is conducted but never published, never repeated, and probably not even used. Consequences, we waste a lot of resources. Plus, we lose public trust. Now, some statistics from the Ministry of Health, which I took from Professor Rohini Selviratna, my teacher, my supervisor. Now, of the total abstracts received, 504, 42% have been rejected. Why? Because due to poor quality. And for 3 years, 2011 to 2014, number of the research that have been conducted, 159, and only 159 was published, if at all. Presented mostly at annual scientific sessions. 86% was presented at various scientific sessions. So how can we prevent this? Again, better study design. The biggest problem is flaws in methodology. And also study registration, pre-registration of protocols, promote transparent and open access of research, encourage collaboration and data sharing, focus on addressing actual evidence gap, focus on implantation and the real world integration. And now support with economic impact of research. Impact. It's the good the researcher can do to the world. Impact could be on people, places, or even processes. The economic and societal impact is the effect of change or benefit to the society, economy, public policy, and service. Types of economic impacts that we can do, assessments we can do: cost saving, budget impact, return of investment, cost effectiveness, cost minimization, cost benefit analysis, etc., etc. Now, this is high time we incorporate this evaluation into our research. This plus risk assessment. So at onset, we know, okay, this is what we are going to deliver to the country. This is the return on investment. And later on, when you start with knowing your risks, it's really beneficial. You face it, you anticipate it. So from next year onwards, NRC, the evaluation criteria plus our applications will incorporate these facts. So while economic evaluation matters, we prioritize cost-effective interventions, avoid investments in ineffective or high-cost, low-impact interventions, ensures optimal use of public health budgets and donor funds. If we don't do so, unused local innovations due to lack of demonstration value, public and policy resistance due to unclear return of investment can happen, delayed adoption of interventions with proven efficacy but unknown affordability. Last slide. Bench to bedside. There are gaps we need to fill. Translational research to innovations to thinking of how to deliver this to the community more effectively and efficiently. Therefore, we need less research, better research, and research done for the right reason. Quality over quantity. To support my statement, I end with a quote. I would propose that the delay is mainly due to our inability to understand and to integrate. Keeping in mind, first do no harm. These are a few references that I use. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramiji. Thank you.